10 years in practice, opening the appointment book, seeing the report of findings and feeling the anxiety land. And at the time, I thought that this was just what carrying the pressure of a practice felt like. And I thought like this is what caring felt like too. I thought this was pressure of just doing the job well. But what I know now is this, that tension wasn't about the patient, it was all about me. It was telling me that I'd made their report of findings about my conversion rate, about my vision, about my success as a chiropractor. And the moment I took that pressure off, everything changed for me, not because I stopped caring, but because I changed what I was measuring. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I have the pleasure of simplifying the marketing and the mindset so you, the chiropractor, can increase your income, your impact, and your enjoyment in practice too. Now, I want to take you back to about 10 years into practice for me. I started to notice something I couldn't quite put my finger on at first, but before every report of findings, there was a slight level of tension in my body. I'd open up the appointment book at the start of the day and I'd scan through the schedule. And when I saw a report of findings in there, I'd feel it, okay? It wasn't excitement. It was a slight level of anxiety. Now, this wasn't just a flash of nerves that passed for me. This is something that I lived with for a couple of years. And for a long time, I just came to accept it. I thought that maybe this is just what it feels like to care about your patients. Maybe this pressure is just part of the job, but eventually I stopped and I asked myself an honest question. Why? Why does this appointment, out of all of the appointments in my day, feel like this? And when I really sat with it, I found there were two things that were sitting on top of every report of findings that I walked into, okay? There were two pressures. Now, the first one was a business pressure. I needed people to start care. The practice needed patients to start care. And if they didn't, that was going to be a problem, okay? A problem with me being able to pay my bills. And I felt this every single time. But there was also a second pressure. And this one was a little harder for me to actually find and admit. I needed, and I wanted them to get the big idea. You see, me, like you, I had a vision for my practice. I wanted to build a healthier community, and I genuinely believed in what chiropractic could do for people's lives. And somewhere along the way, I had linked my success as a chiropractor to whether or not a patient walked out of that room inspired. If they got it, I was winning, and if they didn't get it, I'd failed. Now, those two pressures on their own are each a problem, okay? But together, they compound. And here's the thing I didn't understand at the time, but I understand now. The patient feels both of them, okay? Now, you might not be able to name it, but they feel it in your tone, in your pace, in the way that you start talking faster when they ask a question, in the way that the energy in the room shifts from conversation to convincing. And here's what I want you to hear about that. The tension in your body in the report of findings is just data. Okay, let me say that again. The tension in your body before the report of findings is data. And it's data that is telling you something incredibly important. It's telling you that you've made this appointment about you, your conversion rate, your vision, your identity as a chiropractic. And the moment that that happens, you stop leading and you start convincing. Now, here's the reframe that I want to offer you. The report of findings, gang, is not a sales moment. It's a leadership moment. And that's the difference between those two things, or the difference between those two things is everything. Because when you're selling, you need the patient to say yes. The outcome depends on their answer. But when you're leading, okay, you're simply showing them the next step clearly. You're holding your ground with calm certainty and you're letting them choose. Now, patients don't resist good recommendations, but they do resist uncertainty. When you're unsure, they become unsure, okay? When you're calm, they feel calm. And when you need them to say yes, they feel that need and they pull back, okay? So what is it that changed for me? Now, it was gradual, but there was a key shift. I had to change what I was measuring. I'd been measuring success by whether the patient said yes. And when I'm measuring that, I need them to say yes. And the moment I need something from a patient, I've lost the room. The shift was this. Someone for me is going to be a lifetime patient, even if it isn't just yet. Let me say that again. Someone, or that patient in front of me, is going to be a lifetime patient, even if it isn't just yet. You see, not everybody gets chiropractic the first time. In fact, I'd go as far to say that most don't. Some need to hear it twice, some 3 times. Some need to refer a family member in first before they commit themselves. And when I understood that, the pressure came off me because my job in the report of findings isn't to make somebody get it. My job is to lead them clearly to the next step and then to let them choose. And that changed everything. My tone, my pace, my physiology, and the way that patients responded. Now, let me give you a simple framework that came out of this shift for me. I call it the Effortless Report of Findings framework, and it has 3 parts, okay? It's simple, and it's simple on purpose. Part number 1, folks, is clarity. What is it that you found, and what does it mean for them? This is not a lecture on chiropractic. It's not the full clinical picture. One clear, confident explanation of their situation in plain language. Speak to their life, not to the x-ray. The question to answer here is this: what does this mean for the way that they live, for the way that they feel, for what they've been struggling with? Okay, that's what they care about. That's where your clarity needs to land. Now, here's what this might sound like if you imagine a busy professional coming in, okay? Something like this. What I'm finding here is that your nervous system is under significant amount of load. The areas of your spine that are most affected are the ones responsible for managing stress and tension in your body. And that's showing up as the headaches, the tightness across your shoulders, and that feeling of being wired but exhausted at the same time. This isn't just about your posture. Your body has been trying to cope with more than it can handle for a while now. Now, notice what's happening there. There's no jargon, there's no lecture, there's just clear, confident reflection of what they're already living. Now, part number 2 is the recommendation. What is it that you recommend and why? And state it clearly. Don't hedge. Don't offer multiple options designed to seem flexible, but actually what it does is it signals that you're not sure about what they need. One recommendation delivered with calm certainty, okay? You're the professional in the room. You're the one that's assessed them, and you're the one that knows what they need. Just say it. Again, here's what it might sound like for that same person. What I'm recommending is a structured period of care to start taking the load off your nervous system and give your body a chance to actually recover, not just manage. Based on what I'm seeing, I'd like to see you 3 times a week to begin with. Stepping down as your body responds. That's what I'd recommend for somebody in your situation. Now, again, it's one recommendation, is delivered with calm certainty. I didn't offer options A, B, C, and D. I didn't apologize for the frequency. I said what I recommended and I meant it. Now, part 3 is important because here's what we do is we give them the next step. What specifically are you asking them to commit to? Okay. Most chiropractors or many chiropractors ignore this. Now, in my case here, it's not about lifetime care. It's not the big idea at this stage. It's not a philosophical conversation or conversion rather to chiropractic. But here's something important. Focusing, in my case, on the first 8 to 12 weeks doesn't mean hiding the full picture, okay? It just means sequencing it. This is not about bait and shift, okay? We name the full timeline honestly, so there's no surprises down the track. And then we bring their focus back to the decision in front of them, okay? Again, that's not a bait and switch. This is leadership. So again, here's what it might sound like for that person that we were talking to before. Now, I want to be upfront with you, okay? Getting your nervous system back to where it should be and keeping it there is going to take somewhere between the next 12 to 18 months, okay? That's the honest picture. But I don't want you to think about that today. What I want you to focus on is the next 8 to 12 weeks. We'll get your nervous system settled, see how your body responds, and then we can plan from there. Does that sound like something that you'd like to do? Now, what we've done here is we've named the full timeline honestly, so there's no surprises later, okay? But you've brought their focus, okay, to the decision in front of them. That's the ask, okay? And then you stop talking. That's it. Clarity, recommendation, next step. There's 3 parts of that, and one clear through line is all that's required. Now, let me make this practical. The single most powerful and impactful shift that you can make in the report of findings right now is just this. Say less, but mean it. Most chiropractors talk way too much at the report of findings. Now, I understand why, because it feels like what you want to do is cover all of the bases. It feels thorough, but here's what's actually happening. The more that you talk, the more uncertain you sound. Because if you were truly certain, you wouldn't need to keep on explaining. Think about the best doctor that you've ever seen, the one who made you feel completely at ease, the one that you trusted immediately. Did they talk endlessly to convince you, or did they speak with calm, quiet certainty and let that certainty do the work? Okay, that's the energy that we're going for. Say what you found, say what you recommend, and then ask them to begin. And then, folks, stop talking. Now, let me also name the mistakes that pull chiropractors out of that energy, because most of us are making at least one of these, and probably more than one. Mistake number one is offering too many options. Now, I know why we do this. It feels respectful. It feels caring. It feels like we're meeting people where they're at. But when a patient is sitting across from you and you give them option A, option B, option C, what they hear is, even my chiropractor isn't sure what I need. One recommendation, one clear next step. Now, mistake number two is over-explaining the science. Now, I've sat through a report of findings where chiropractors have given a full lecture on the nervous system, subluxation theory, the history of chiropractic before asking the patient if they'd like to start care. By that point, the patient is totally overwhelmed, folks. And overwhelmed people do not say yes. They say, I'll think about it. Speak to their life, folks, not to their knowledge. Now, let's move on to mistake number three, and that is apologizing for the investment. Now, the moment you say something like this, I know it's a bit of an investment, or I understand if cost is a concern, before the patient has actually raised it, you've just told them to be worried about the price. Present your recommendation with the same calm certainty that you'd want a surgeon to use before recommending an operation, okay? They do not apologize for the cost. They recommend what they believe is right, and you should do this also. Now, mistake number four is asking, does that make sense? Repeatedly. Now, once or twice is fine, but 3 times and the patient is now wondering whether they should actually be more confused than they are. So say it clearly, say it once or twice, then let the silence folks do the work. Now, here's what I want you to do this week. There's 3 things that I want you to take from this. The first is this. Before your next report of findings, check in with your body. Notice which pressure you're carrying. Is it the business pressure? Okay, I need them to convert to pay my bills. Or is it the mission pressure? Okay, I need them to get the big idea. Now, just noticing is the first step. Now, the second one is reduce your report of findings to 3 clear statements. Remember, what I found, what I recommend, and what I'm asking you to commit to today. Write it out beforehand if you need to, okay? Now, third, after the report of findings, notice what's happening in your body, okay? Did the tension shift? Did leading feel different from convincing? Now, remember, data doesn't lie. Your body knows when you're leading, and it also knows when you're convincing. Start paying attention to the difference. So let's come back to where we started, okay? 10 years in practice, opening the appointment book, seeing the report of findings, and feeling the anxiety land. And at the time, I thought that this was just what carrying the pressure of a practice felt like, okay? And I thought like this is what caring felt like too. I thought this was pressure of just doing the job well. But what I know now is this, that tension wasn't about the patient, it was all about me. It was telling me that I'd made their report of findings about my conversion rate, about my vision, about my success as a chiropractor. And the moment I took that pressure off, everything changed for me, not because I stopped caring, but because I changed what I was measuring. I stopped measuring whether the person says yes, and I started measuring whether I had led them clearly. But I let them choose, because somebody is going to be a lifetime patient, even if it isn't just yet. Now, your job in the report of findings isn't to make this happen today. Your job is to show up with clarity, to make confident recommendations, and to ask them or invite them to take the next step. And trust that the right people will, okay? That's not about lowering the standards. This is actually a higher standard, because it takes real confidence to lead without needing the outcome. All right, folks, that's it for today. Thanks for all that you do. Keep saving lives, and I look forward to seeing you back here next week. Bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.